Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And it's great that everybody has a mic. So if there's anything that you are unclear about, feel free to just break in and ask a question. So I'll try to be as swift as possible. So I'm Felive. Nice to meet y'all. You are here for money. So let's get this started. Eligibility. I won't go into that, but you guys are all eligible. So here are some prior successful applications. I've included this in the calendar invite, so you guys should all have this accessible. I won't go into all the details, but I just want you to take a quick scan about how many different types of organizations have been able to secure funds and the different activities that they've been able to implement over the past few years. And you'll see also in the second to last column from the right-hand side is the amount of the ask for each organization. Prior to COVID, it was $150,000 maximum that organizations could ask for. Again, this is a matching grant, so I'll talk more about that because I remember hearing someone say that it was a challenge for them to come up with match, and I'll give you some hints, I guess, about that, how to come up with the match. But so $150,000 was the max, let's say, for the Hammond Business Wastewater project. It was community revitalization, and their total project cost was over $1.5 million. This year, so after COVID, it went up to 250, but this year, the ceiling of the amount of money you can ask for is 200,000. But that's, that's a pretty penny still. So, and all of these, by the way, they are linked. So you can click on, this image and it'll take you to see the more updated list of projects, actually throughout the whole 13 state ARC region. Okay, so for fiscal year 2023, this is the amount of money that New York State allocated for our whole southern tier region. So all the way to the east, almost pretty close to New York City, and all the way to Chautauqua. $9.8 million ARC investment and project match of $18.9 million. Total project investment, 28.7. 53 projects across these counties were able to be implemented. And so I'll go into this in a little bit more detail in a little bit, but Workforce Ecosystem got the lion's share of the money at $3.6 million, Community Leaders and Capacity at 2.7, Community Infrastructure 2.6, so just a little bit less, and then additional priorities, which included Culture and Tourism, and what was the other one that is not here? Culture and Tourism, and then there's another one that I'll remember as I go through this. So this is just a breakdown of 2022 expenditure and 2023 expenditure. And you guys can take a look at that in more detail, but I really want to get to the nuts and bolts of everything. So here, I'll focus on this more. This is our calendar. So and you can start updating your calendar now. April 15th is the deadline for the 2-page letter of intent, which is basically just going to ask for your organization information, the basics, the 411s of your name, the person in charge, and then some other stuff. I'll go through that in more detail when we get to the actual LOI. 2 weeks after that, or between those 2 weeks, actually. So May 1st is when we will come back to you and give you feedback. And so between April 15th and May 1st, our staff is going to get together, look at all the LOIs, and kind of rank them as to which applications or which organizations might have the best chances of following through with the full application, and that would get our Southern Tier West Board's approval, because ultimately it's the Southern Tier West Board that approves or that ranks the applications, and it's up to them to say who goes forward to the state. So by May 1st, I'll let you guys know like what your ranking is, and then it's up to you to decide whether you want to continue onto the pre-application stage, or if you want to say like, we need a little bit of time to think about, our process, think about, what we have in store, and if we could be able to actually follow through with this. Mind you, I'm going to jump down. I jump around a lot, so forgive me, but I'm going to jump down to the very last row. June 1st, 2025 is like the roundabout date when ARC notice of successful applications will come into your email box. So we tell everyone that this is a long haul, and you should, when you're thinking about what you want to do, plan that your start date would be like June 1st of the, like next year. So it's a lot of work, and it's a long timeline. However, we do it in a scaffolded way so that we, realistically, we could start in June and I could throw the full application at y'all, and you prepare, like you run and you scramble for a month straight to get all of your letters of commitment, letters of support, fill out those required federal and state forms, and do your budget narrative and your project narrative and your timeline and all that stuff, only to be rejected. So instead of doing that and breaking your heart, we've scaffolded the application process. So letter of intent, April 15th, May 1st, it's up to you. We give you feedback, you decide. June 3rd is when the pre-application is due by 4 p.m. You just email it to me. The pre-application is the project and budget narrative, the timeline, and the budget. So all that stuff is going to go into your final application anyway, but we want you to focus on that because that's the most important piece of your application, because that's the stuff that the board is going to review. All right, moving right along. July 11th is when all of y'all who decide to do that, the pre-application, you guys are invited here to Salamanca to our office, and you present to our board. At that time, they will have, in theory, they will have reviewed all the stuff that you have given to me, and they will have questions. So now's your time to put a face to the application, and to put in any other things that might not have fit. So any anecdotes or any other photographs or charts or whatever. You can come with a PowerPoint, you can come with videos, you can come with come with some other people just as support. Again, just to put that face. And then if there's any clarifying questions, they'll ask you, and that's your opportunity to shine. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you have 8 minutes to do all that stuff. And then, by the way, between June 3rd and July 11th, I will have reviewed your pre-application. And if there's anything that I feel needs, some clarification, or needs to be buffed up a little bit, I will get back to you so that when you get there, to July 11th. And then when we get our stuff out, or like when we get your pre-application out to the board, it's as shiny as possible. And by the way, that July 11th is a tentative date because, you know, the Allegheny State Fair is there too, and some of the county legislators like to go to that. And so, yeah, it's tentative, but don't worry, there's enough time that I'll let you know. Okay, Friday, August 23rd, draft of the final application is due. So that same day of, sorry, I gotta go back a second. July 11th or sometime near that. During that board meeting, after you guys present, the board will rank your projects like high priority, middle priority, and low priority. So those people that, organizations that get high priority, we will, you know, we'll tell everybody straight up, this is how you were ranked. But those people who get high priority, it's time to start working on your draft of your final application. So all the documents that are required, you can actually click there, I believe, and there is a link. But you can start filling out your documents. For those in the middle and low priority, it's up to you whether you want to take that time to move forward. And I'm saying it like this. So between 4 and 5 projects get funded, or 4 and 6, sorry, 4 and 6 projects get funded every year. And it depends on the ask of each project, right? So there are times once we've sent out the applications, over to the state, and the state sends out the applications like at the beginning of like 2025, let's say, they send out the applications to the federal offices in DC. Sometimes the state will come back to us and say, hey, some of the other local development districts projects fell through, or there's extra money. Are there any projects that are waiting in the wings that they would like, those applicants would like to submit a full application and be considered? At that point, I'll contact whoever's in the middle and low rankings who did not do the full application. I'll present that opportunity to them, and then you can go for it and possibly be funded. It's happened before. So let's see. So okay, so August 23rd is the draft of the final application. I will review. If there's anything missing or needs to be clarified, I'll communicate with y'all. September 20th is the due date to have all the full applications, all documents emailed to me. And then I take a couple of weeks to put everybody's packet together so that on October 1st, I can send them to New York State. Then New York State can review them. We have the ARC officers over there that review. If there's any questions, they'll come back to me, and then I can come back to y'all and fix those issues. And at which point it makes its way to the governor's office. The governor puts a stamp of approval, and then it makes its way to DC, and then in DC, you're assigned a project manager, and then the project manager looks it over, and if there's anything missing, they come back to you, or anything that's not clear, they come back to you, they come back to me, and we work together to make sure that everything, all the, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, so that by June 1st, roughly, you can receive notice that, yay, you got funded, and you can move on with your life and implement your project. Any questions there? All right, silence means, oh, go ahead.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but is there any stipulations on what the money can be spent on? I'm looking at what's been done. It looks like certainly programmatic expenses. Can it be used for equipment, facility upgrades?
Okay, so I know this is talking about, this page is talking about match. That's a really good question. and I'm moving forward a little bit, but, personnel, so personnel, equipment, supplies, marketing, but if it's not called marketing, so you have to get creative with that, verbiage. What else? So like maybe recruitment instead of marketing, recruitment would be a good word. Um, let's see. What else? What else? What else? Services, expert services, consultations from private, organizations, um, even purchase of land is a possibility. Um, rental space for programmatic activities. Let's see what else. What else? What else? Am I thinking of, or am I missing anything else? I think that's just about it.
I think it would have been shorter to say what we can't spend things on.
What you
That's pretty,
cannot spend things on, you can't spend.
no, no, I'm just kidding here. But
Yeah, I'm wondering.
that's a very, very broad list.
It is.
So
So
very happy.
while I'm talking about expenditures, I'll just talk about match too, because that came up as an issue. So, well, no, let me go back first. Let me talk about this. So, every county within the 13 states. So here's the map of the 13 states. Every county has a ARC designation for county economic status and distressed areas. You'll see the, let's see, dark blue, which we have none of, but that's attainment. Competitive is light blue. Transitional is white, which we used to be. At least Cattaraugus and Chautauqua used to be when I first came in here in this role in 2020. And now, if you see, they're all at risk. And then which is pink, and then the red is distressed. So, yeah, Allegheny County, Cattaraugus, and Chautauqua are all now at risk, which is bad for the residents, and it makes it challenging for the people who are trying to socially, culturally, and economically develop the region, right? However, it's good in the way if you're trying to apply for an ARC grant, because that means as a at-risk county, you have to come up with 30% match. Whereas before, when we were in transition, it used to be 50% match. So, trying to put a silver lining on a super kind of dark cloud, a dark gray cloud, not a black cloud, because we're not distressed yet. If you'll see though, there's darker areas, there's darker yellow in Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, and Allegheny counties. Those are areas of distress. And let me actually, I have a slide for that, I think. Oh, oh, here it is. Okay. So the areas of distress are around Jamestown and Dunkirk for Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, it's Salamanca, Steenburg area, and Olean. And then Allegheny, I believe that's Wellsville, if I'm not mistaken.
A chunk of Wellsville. I've seen a close up of the map.
Yeah.
Most of Wellsville.
Yeah. So when you are filling out your application, you want to make sure that you talk about those pockets of distress, because it'll just gain you points for within New York State, but also in the larger Appalachian region. So let's say you have a medium ranked project. If most of your activity is in a distressed area, New York State might come back to you and say, or come back to me and say, hey, we have extra money. Is there any projects that are willing to do this? And then, and we're really looking at the distressed areas, then we'll come back to you and, whomever you are, and then say like, hey, more money's been made available. Are you willing to, finish out your application? And then, yeah, we can move forward and get you funds. Any questions there? Okay. So let me. Okay. Like I said, I jump around a little bit, so please forgive me. Hopefully y'all are following me. If not, just ask a question. Back to the LOI. LOI is due 4/15. This is what it looks like. It's pretty easy. It's not going to take up too much of your time. So I recommend that every organization that is here, you fill one out because it's not gonna, it's really not going to take that much time. And you can sit on it a little bit. We can schedule a one-on-one meeting or like 3-on-1, depending on how many people are in your organization that want to be in that conversation, and we can talk about it. And I will be here for you as much or as little as you want me to be. So there's certain organizations that apply every year and they get it every year with very little of my help, and that's okay. I am not offended. But there's other organizations that it's their first time around, and they want a lot of my time. They want me to review every sentence. They want me to review like whatever the budget. They want me to do like all the things. They want to meet with me, talk on the phone, me come down to their organization. That's fine too. That's what I'm here for. So please, I am at your service. Again, as much or as little as you'd like me to be involved. It's kind of like what I told my dissertation committee when I was writing my dissertation up. So, okay, so we talked about that. We talked about that. Well, oh, let me talk about match a little bit more because I just talked about the expenditures, what money could be spent on. So let's talk about match. So match can be cash or it can be in kind. Cash can be drawn from your own funds. So like fundraisers, some organizations have investment funds, dividends, whatever. You can take that money and use it as match. For fundraisers, some people have said, okay, we don't have the money yet, but we're going to work on that money. And some people are really good fundraisers, and so that it's, like it's not that big an issue. So yeah, fundraisers, that can be money, cash donations from non-federal third parties, partner organizations. It can be private entities, like in Olean, Cutco gives a lot of money out, right? So they're a private organization, but they give a lot of money out. And so if you were to be so lucky as to get Cutco to give you money, then that would be fine as well. Federal, state, or private foundation grants is acceptable. You can have a grant from another federal agency or a state agency and use that as your cash match. Bank loans are also counted as cash. So there's lots of ways, and any combination of those things can be considered. All right, now in-kind donations, which a lot of our organizations in the past have used or have relied on 100% of their match as in-kind donations, which is a little bit easier sometimes because people are willing to give up their time, their expertise, their stuff, maybe their space, rather than money, right? So personnel given to the project, and personnel being the people within your organizations who are donating their time to this specific project. So even though they're employed by your organization, they can also donate their time to this project, right? A person on loan from another organization or corporation or entity or LCC, whatever, or LLC, sorry. Donation or use of equipment like a crane or bulldozer. That also goes for supplies. So like, I don't know, like reams of paper. I mean, we're all in offices and we all print a lot, I'm sure. So, and it costs money to do those things, right? So, expert services like engineering or architectural services, website design, things like that. Value of a lease for project space. The one note about this one is that the money the space cannot be owned by the organization. It has to be owned by someone else. So let's say Southern Tier West, we had a project that we wanted to do. We could not use our space downstairs in which is the BOCES office, because we actually own this whole space. And so we would have to find someone else, like the BOCES office in Ellicottville, right? Because they own that. It's a separate building. And then another important point about matching is that all applications for ARC funding must include a formal commitment letter from the matching source indicating a firm commitment to provide the required match. Yeah, so they have to say, Southern Tier West really likes Houghton College's project, and we are in full commitment for, our personnel to donate $10,000 of their time to helping organize the project. Something like that. All right. ARC investment priorities. Okay, so when you're thinking about your project, when you're thinking about designing your project, it must correlate to one of these 5 different ARC investment priorities. So building Appalachian businesses is one, building Appalachia's workforce ecosystem. So workforce ecosystem, it could be training, it could be upskilling people. Building Appalachia's infrastructure, so utility infrastructures that help Appalachia's residents successfully live and work in the region. And that ultimately involves construction, which is another thing I'll talk about in a moment. It adds another layer of administration and federal partnership, federal or state partnership. I'll talk about that in a moment. But building regional tourism, culture and tourism is another priority. It gets less funding if you look back at the breakdown of expenditure on the 53 projects that New York State gave money to, or their ARC money to. You'll see that building regional culture and tourism got a little bit less money than some of the other ones, but it still got money. So it's not to say that if you're trying to do something with culture and tourism that you can't get money. And then finally, building community leaders and capacity is the 5th priority. Any questions here? Okay, so let me talk about basic agency. So if you have, let's say you want to do workforce development, and you want to expand your facility. And so your priority is workforce development. That's your goal, but you need to expand your facility. So you need to build something out, and it's going to require construction. Well, that means you have this added level of bureaucracy, and you need to establish a relationship with a basic agency. So basic agency partners are federal and state public agencies experienced at managing federal construction grants that can be approved as designated ARC basic agencies. ARC currently partners with the following federal and state agencies. So this is the list that we have. Before I joined in 2020, New York State was really shying away from any construction-based projects because there is a percent of what your ask is for your project from ARC. A percentage is calculated, and then the basic agency gets administration fee from ARC, not from you guys, not from the applicant. But that just means that there's a little bit less money for actual project implementation. So New York State was in the past shying away from construction projects. However, fiscal year 2024, 3 of the 4 highly ranked projects that moved forward to New York State and to the federal ARC offices were construction projects. And so we have established, I feel like, a decent relationship with the USDA, where if you have a construction project in mind, the possibility that you could actually get funded is fairly high. Whereas pre-2020, it would have been like, we actually wouldn't have even been having a conversation with y'all. So keep that in mind. All right, so New York State has a strategic statement that comes out, and basically, so there is a link that you can click on and see more of the implementation strategies that New York State has. But each New York State implementation strategy correlates with one of the ARC priority goals. And so in this case, I just gave an example of goal number 4, which is building regional culture and tourism. That's basically what it says. And then so to kind of piggyback on that, New York State, their implementation strategy for that kind of building regional cultural and tourism, you would pick one of these strategies to highlight in your application when you are moving forward. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I think we're coming to the end here. Yay. So keep in mind, during the following program cycle, Department of State will seek out projects that emphasize the following priority: advance the REDC strategies and priorities. That's a live link. The LDD SEDS, that's a live link to our SEDS, and county or community comprehensive plans. That's also a live link. They're also looking for projects that contribute measurably and positively to economic impact and advance economic development, demonstrate job creation, or alternatively, demonstratively retain local jobs, train the local workforce for employment in wealth-producing careers, and then promote smart growth and or village or urban centers for commercial revitalization, and foster rehabilitation of local pockets of distress, which we talked about before. And here's the pockets of distress. Building success. Here's what makes a good ARC project. It solves challenges in new and innovative ways. It includes specific outputs and outcomes. So numbers, numbers, numbers. I'll get back to that in a moment. It cultivates new partnerships, and it's sustainable beyond the grant period. All right, outputs and outcomes. So this is numbers, numbers, numbers. Outputs, you want to say how many participants were served and how many participants were improved. So yesterday when I was doing this, I got a really good example that was shared with me about smoking cessation. So let's say Southern Tier West decided to do a program that focused on smoking cessation. Let's say 100 people come in and were served, and they heard all of the spiel about how dangerous it is to smoke. They participated in this smoking cessation program. And then the outcome would be 50 of those people actually improved their lives by stopping smoking. That's basically what you want to say. You want to have concrete numbers. Now, I know sometimes it's a little bit hard to project into the future. None of us are fortune tellers. Otherwise, we'd probably play lotto and win and, do other things with our time. However, you want to be optimistic or realistically optimistic. That's what I say. So you don't want to like pick your ideal number and then scale it back just a little bit, because you don't want to have like a high number, like I'm going to reach 1,000 people and 1,000 people are going to be improved. The reality is life happens And if you're dealing with people, life happens for a whole bunch of thousands of people if that's what you're dealing with. So a bunch of those people are going to drop out. So rather maybe say, okay, well, all right, 100 is more likely. And out of that, we're hoping for like 70% would be a decent amount of people to be improved. And then that way, you're able to hit your mark because you're being realistic, even though you know like there's 10,000 people out there, but you know, people have lives, people get lazy, they just don't want to do stuff. But if you exceed your numbers, it looks way better than not succeeding. So I tell people be realistically optimistic. All right. If you haven't applied for a federal grant in a long time, they no longer use SAM number. They use a unique entity ID. So you just got to click. The link is live, and I believe it is the correct link that will help you get your free unique entity ID number. And it only takes like a day maybe for them to follow up. All right. Just projecting into the future, like into August. This is what your table of contents will look like, and this is all the stuff that you will be responsible for in your final application. But like I said, this is a scaffolded process, and so we're not asking for all this stuff right now. Right now, April 15th, we're just looking for that 2-page letter of intent. After that, the pre-application is section number 3, your project narrative, and section number 4, your budget narrative. So those are the 2 things that will, oh, and the timeline, which is oddly in section 2 for some reason. But we're only looking for those 3 little things. The rest of the stuff in section number 1, number 2, and number 5 are things that will be due, you know, after you've already done your presentation to our board and gotten feedback and then given the go ahead, the green light to fill out the full application. Sample grading criteria on the left is a rubric, and that's an example of like what every application, every that is going to go to the board to review, they're also going to get this rubric that highlights, you know, where your application is on that scale. And I'm the one that puts this together. So I'm the one that's reading your application, and that is, you know, highlighting which column you should be in. I'm hoping that everybody is in the number 10, getting 10 points in the exemplary column. And then I write my comments and key points. I just write up key points of the application so that when the board members get your pre-application, in theory, they will have the ability and time to read those. Whether they do or not, I'm not sure. It's like kind of hit or miss sometimes, but they at least have this rubric that they can just kind of do a quick review of what the application is, and then they can ask further clarifying questions. And I am, whether I've been super involved in your project or not, I am just, I try to be just the neutral facilitator. So I'm not trying to like, you know, weigh on one applicant's side more than any others. I'm trying to give everybody equal, not equal, rather I'm trying to give everybody equitable time and space. So yeah, the the 3 pages to the right of that rubric is kind of what New York State, how they grade people. So that is also available on our website, I believe. So if you want to check that out in a little more detail. Okay, now we're really getting to the end. So key points. Oh, I forgot to change that. So maximum grant is actually 200,000 for this year. And that kind of varies depending on the administration, like federal administration, and how much money is allocated at that level, and then trickles down to us. It's a long haul grant, so your project won't start until, oh, sorry, forgot to change that too. So mid-2025. Projects can last for up to 18 months. They can be as little as 6 months. Priority is given to projects focused on those with significant economic outputs and outcomes. So again, be optimistically realistic. Let's see. Oh, although construction and renovation grants are considered eligible, the extra cost and bureaucracy associated with involving an external government entity to manage the grant, aka basic agency, is not prioritized. However, last year actually kind of threw that all away. And then planning or R&D grants. While eligible, they have lower priority than those that are ready to implement grants. However, last year's application process, when we were going through the Southern Tier West Board review of the applications, the #1 ranked project was actually a planning grant for Allegheny County. So if you're going to go for those types of plans, just go for it and see what the board says, because they might really like your project. And then depending on the ask, between 4 and 6 projects get funded in any given year. Don't wait, do your homework, start the conversation, which you guys have already, like we're having a conversation now, and fill out your LOI. I'm the primary contact. I'm the coordinator. Richard Zink, who's our executive director, he's a secondary person. And then just other quick programs that I'll mention. ARISE is a multi-state limited funding available through 2026. There is, well, the link is there. You can explore more, but April 30th and June 30th is when people can fill that out. Inspire is an ongoing match-based. They're all match-based. Power is ongoing. Work is no match. The J-1 visa waiver is usually taken up by hospitals. And then there's Ready Appalachia training funds, which is also ongoing. And so you can click on all of these links. They are live. And learn more about that. And then there's one more little thing on the reference page. Here are all the resources so you guys can explore more. And yeah. Are there any questions? If not, I will release you guys all.
Thank you. This has been really helpful.
Awesome.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
and we can, you're very welcome. I'm happy to, like I said, just reach out to me. We can schedule a meeting and talk more about your ideas.
Great. Have a nice
All
day,
right.
everyone.
Thank
you so
you.
much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.